These electric supercars. We're talking about the BYD Yangwang U9 today. And man, this thing is something else. I mean, from what I've seen, it's got crazy performance, some insane technology, and it can even, like, jump over stuff.
It's a pretty fascinating vehicle. Yeah, BYD's been around in the EV market for a while, but their Yangwang brand, this U9, it's a serious move into the premium supercar game.
And they're not holding back. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour, 2.36 seconds. Top speed, almost 310 kilometers an hour. And get this, it clocked a Nürburgring lap time of 7 minutes and 17.9 seconds. I mean, that's up there with some of the fastest production cars in the world.
Yeah, that Nürburgring time is a big deal. It tells you BYD isn't just going for raw speed, they're aiming for serious track performance, putting the U9 right up against the big supercar names.
But you know what really caught my eye? That crazy suspension system, the DiSus-X. You've seen that video, right? The U9 jumping over road spikes and potholes, like something out of a movie.
Yeah.
But beyond the showmanship, what's the deal with this tech?
Oh, the DiSus-X is way more than a gimmick. It's a huge leap in suspension tech. You're talking about a system that can hydraulically control each wheel on its own, reacting to the road in milliseconds. It's like having a supercomputer keeping the car stable in real time. That's how it pulls off those stunts. But it's also about handling, ride comfort, even safety.
So it's not just about jumping stuff. It's about staying in control in crazy situations. Pretty impressive.
Exactly. And it's not just the suspension either. The whole U9 is built on BYD's E4 platform, their electric architecture, built for performance. 4 independent motors, 1 for each wheel. That means super precise torque vectoring and control.
Okay, you're losing me a little bit in the tech talk there. What does all that mean for the person actually driving the car?
Think of it this way. Those 4 motors, they let the U9 adjust power to each individual wheel almost instantly. That means crazy handling and responsiveness. It's like the car knows what you're going to do before you do it.
So, like a super responsive all-wheel drive system that's constantly adjusting for maximum performance. I can dig that.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. BYD has a real edge here. They're vertically integrated. They make their own batteries, motors, and control systems. That means they can control the quality and develop things faster. They're building everything specifically for cars like the U9.
Right, makes sense. You know, talking about batteries, I was surprised to see the U9 uses LFP batteries, not the NMC batteries you usually see in these high-performance EVs. Kind of strange for a supercar, isn't it?
It is an interesting choice, yeah. Usually, NMC batteries are the go-to for performance EVs because they pack more energy, longer range. But LFP batteries, they've got their own strengths. They're safer, they last longer, and they cost less. BYD seems to be banking on those factors, figuring their tech can make up for the slightly lower range of the LFPs.
So they're playing a different game, focusing on different strengths.
And they still get decent range, right? Yeah. The U9 gets 465 kilometers on the CLTC standard. Not the longest range for an electric supercar, but definitely respectable. And check this out, they've even got dual charging. You can plug in 2 chargers at the same time to get the battery topped up faster.
So it's like a supercar that's also a tech showcase and a practical daily driver. That's a pretty unique mix.
You got it.
Yeah.
It seems BYD is trying to redefine what a supercar can be, mixing cutting-edge performance with, actually being able to use it every day.
It can't be cheap, though. All this performance and technology. The U9 is priced at 1.68 million RMB. That puts it right in the luxury supercar bracket. You think BYD is maybe overestimating how appealing a Chinese supercar is going to be? I mean, these buyers are used to Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's a bold move, that's for sure, going into the supercar market with a price tag like that, especially for a brand that's new to this scene. But BYD seem pretty confident the U9 can justify that price. The performance, the tech, the whole package.
Well, I guess we'll see how the market reacts. It's an interesting challenge, that's for sure. But before we get in all that, let's talk about the design. Does this thing look as good as it performs?
Well, BYD has gone with this really distinctive design language for the Yangwang brand. They call it Timegate. It's futuristic, aerodynamic, sharp lines, aggressive angles, and a really unique front grille. Almost looks like a dragon's face.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures. It definitely stands out. Not like any other supercar out there. It's like they've taken classic supercar design and mixed it with something futuristic, almost sci-fi.
I think you're right. It's not trying to copy other supercars. It's doing its own thing, which is cool to see. It's a bold statement, just like the car itself.
The whole car is a bold statement.
Yeah.
But we haven't even talked about the interior yet. What's it like to actually sit inside this beast? So what's the deal? Is it all carbon fiber and racing seats? Or did BYD go for something more luxurious?
Oh, they definitely went for luxury. I think high-end leather, all the tech displays you could want and ambient lighting, the whole 9 yards. But there's one thing that really makes the interior special. Audiophiles are going to love this.
Okay, now you've got me curious. What is it?
They got Dynaudio, the Danish audio company, to put in their Evidence series system. Top-of-the-line stuff. You usually see that in, like, a crazy home theater setup. Not in a car.
Wow, that's serious audio.
Yeah.
So they're going for the full experience, huh? Not just speed and performance. All right, so you've got this awesome sound system, a luxury interior, and a design that turns heads. What's it like being around this car, I mean?
I was lucky enough to see the U9 in person, at an auto show. And honestly, pictures just don't do it justice. It's got this presence, hard to explain. Sleek, powerful, sophisticated. It just draws you in. It's obvious BYD put a lot of thought into every detail. It's not just about driving. It's an experience.
I can see it now. The lines, the dragon grille, the roar of the... Wait, it's electric, right? So more like a whoosh?
Yeah, more like a futuristic whoosh. But that doesn't mean it's boring. Hearing those electric motors spin up is something else. And then inside, you've got that Dynaudio system surrounding you with sound, whatever you want to hear.
Yeah. So it's not just a silent electric car. It's got its own sound. I like that. But, let's zoom out a bit. What does it all mean, this U9, not just for BYD, but for the whole car industry?
It's more than just a car. It's a statement. China's not messing around anymore. They're not just trying to catch up. They want to lead. And they're doing it with a car that's both technologically advanced and just flat out desirable.
Yeah, it's like they're changing the rules and doing it their own way. Not just copying what's been done, but forging ahead with something new.
Exactly. They're shifting how people see Chinese cars, challenging the established supercar makers.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, we're here, we innovate, and we're ready to compete with the best.
Plus, let's not forget, it's all electric. Proof that you can have amazing performance, crazy tech, and a head-turning design without burning gas. That's a powerful message, especially now, with everyone talking about sustainability.
Absolutely. The U9 shows us a future where high-performance driving doesn't have to destroy the environment, and I think that's something a lot of people are looking forward to.
Me included.
Yeah.
But you said earlier, the U9 is just one piece of the puzzle. What else is BYD working on? What other surprises do they have?
Well, remember we were talking about BYD being vertically integrated. That lets them move fast, adapt to changes. And they're not just focused on supercars. They're big in the whole EV market, from small city cars to luxury sedans. They're even making electric buses and trucks.
Wow. So they're playing the long game, building a whole ecosystem of electric vehicles. That's ambitious.
It is. And with the U9, they've shown they can push the limits and change expectations. It's going to be exciting to see what they do next.
You've definitely got me interested. But before we get too carried away with the future, let's stick with the U9 for a minute. What do you think is the most remarkable thing about this car?
For me, it's how BYD has brought together cutting-edge tech and pure driving pleasure. The U9 is a technological marvel, sure, but it's also a car that's meant to be enjoyed, driven, experienced.
That's a good point. It's not all about the numbers and specs. It's about how it feels, the connection between the car and the driver. And speaking of connection, I read that the U9 has some pretty high-tech driver assistance features.
Right. It's got a whole suite of sensors and systems to make it safer and easier to drive. Adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, automatic emergency braking, even a system that watches the driver and can tell if you're getting drowsy or distracted.
Sounds like they've covered all the bases. So it's like they've mixed the thrill of a supercar with the peace of mind of a luxury sedan.
Exactly. They've made a driving experience that's both exhilarating and reassuring. But here's where things get really interesting.
All right. You've got me hooked. What's so interesting about these driver assistance features? It's just the usual safety stuff, right? Or is there something more?
Well, BYD's been hinting that the U9 could actually have self-driving capabilities. They haven't given us all the details yet, but the hardware seems like it's there for some serious self-driving tech. Maybe even level 4 autonomy. That means the car could handle most driving situations all on its own.
Whoa, wait a minute. Are we talking about a supercar that can drive itself? That's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
I get self-driving for like everyday traffic and stuff.
Oh.
But a supercar, isn't that like the opposite of what a supercar is about?
Yeah, it's a good question. It'll be interesting to see how BYD balances those two things. Maybe they're thinking you could have fun driving it on a track or a cool road, then flip it to autonomous mode for the highway or when you're stuck in traffic.
Ah, I see. So it's like having two cars in one. A performance beast when you want to drive, and then a self-driving chariot when you just want to chill.
You got it. That kind of flexibility could be a huge selling point for the U9, appealing to different types of drivers and what they want.
I'm starting to understand why everyone's talking about BYD. They're not just making cars, they're thinking about mobility in a whole new way. But let's be realistic for a second. What does this mean for the average person? Is the U9 just a fancy concept for the future? Or are these advancements going to make it into cars that regular people can buy?
That's what's so exciting. The tech in the U9, the batteries, the driver assistance stuff, it's not just for supercars. We're already seeing some of it trickle down to regular cars. Maybe not as advanced, but it's happening.
So it's kind of like a halo effect, right? The U9 shows everyone what's possible, and then those ideas eventually become more common and affordable.
Exactly. The U9 is like BYD's testing ground. They're pushing the limits, and then everyone benefits from what they learn.
So we're all kind of riding on BYD's ambition here. That's pretty cool. But let's face it, the U9 is still a really exclusive car. Expensive and probably hard to get. Isn't there a chance it becomes like a symbol of elitism? Making the gap bigger between people who can afford the latest tech and those who can't.
That's a real concern, and it's something the car industry needs to be careful about, especially as we move towards electric and high-tech vehicles. But I also think cars like the U9 can inspire the whole industry, show what's possible, and maybe even help bring costs down in the long run.
So it's about finding a balance, right? Pushing the limits, but making sure everyone benefits.
Right. Governments, companies, and even consumers, we all have a role to play here. It's complicated, but I'm optimistic. I think we can make this transition in a way that works for everyone.
I like your optimism. This deep dive has been incredible. I mean, we've talked about everything from the U9's crazy performance to self-driving, the luxury interior, and what BYD is doing for the whole car industry.
It's been great exploring this car with you. The U9 is a real testament to what we can achieve. It gives us a look into a future where driving isn't just about getting around. It's about experiencing the journey in a whole new way.
Well said. And for our listeners, keep your eyes on BYD. They're just getting started. Who knows what they'll come up with next? Maybe flying cars are closer than we think.
Uh-huh. Maybe that's a deep dive for another time.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm your host, and this has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.